So yesterday we have seen that the review of OOP. In that review of OOP, we have seen that our C++ language should be developed by scientist Bijar Strostrup in AT&T laboratory in 1982. So that scientist was initially a software engineer. So he extends C by adding certain features. So that features are, so see here, this is the C language. In that C language we are adding the extra feature. That extra feature is nothing but the class, and that class we have taken from a language Simula 67. So that C++ language should be called as a C language with a class. So we are adding extra feature, and that feature is nothing but the class. So that's why that C language initially should be renamed as that language is a extension of C language. So that's why we are saying that C++ is nothing but the extension of C language, because some of the extra features that we are going to add in a C language, and that features are nothing but the class. So that's why it is a C with class. So when that C++ language is developed, so initially that language should be called by several names such as superset of C, or that language should be called as an extension of C, or that language should be called as a advanced version of C. So to avoid this naming confusion, so initially that language should be called as a general purpose language. So that general purpose language should be called as a general purpose language. So when that software engineer that Bijar Strostrup extends C in 1983. After that, we have seen the definition of C++. So in that definition, we have seen that the C++ is a general purpose language, C++ is a middle level language, C++ is a compiler based language, and C++ is a object oriented programming language. Why it is called as a general purpose? Because we are yesterday we have seen the simple example of general store, because in general store we are able to get the different items. So in that similar purpose, by using the C++, we are able to develop the different softwares, and that softwares are such as operating systems, editors, commercial applications, databases, translator, device driver, PC, mobile games, and protocols. So these are the softwares that we can develop by using the C++, and many more softwares are also there that we are going to develop by using the C++. So that's why C++ language should be called as a general purpose, because the meaning of general is multi-purpose. So that multi-purpose software that we can develop by using the C++. Again, it is called as a compiler based, because that C++ language is used for the construction of translator, and the translators are compiler, interpreter, and assembler. And the use of the translator is to convert the high level language into the machine understandable language. So in a C++, we are going to use a compiler to convert our program into the machine understandable language. So that's why C++ should be called as a compiler based language. Next, we have seen a simple example of software. Software is nothing but the collection of programs, and the second definition of software is it is a digitalized automated process. And the definition of program is it is nothing but the set of instructions. So for that we have seen a simple example of VLC media player. So in a VLC media player, number of buttons are there. That is the play button, rewind button, stop button, forward button, after that volume buttons. So see here, once again I am explaining you so how software is called as a collection of programs. So see here, when we are clicking on that play button, so automatically that play button will convert into the pause button. Means after clicking on play button, when that play button is converted into the pause button, means that conversion of play to pause, it is nothing but a one program. When we are clicking on that forward and backward button, so when I click on that backward button, so automatically our any video that is running on VLC media player, that video automatically move back by certain time, that is 10 minute 10 millisecond 10 second, 15 second, or 1 minute. So it is nothing but the program, because when we are clicking on that backward button, if automatically our program will move back by a certain time limit, so it is already programmed. So this is the volume button. So by clicking on a different side, either we can increase or decrease the volume of our VLC media player. So these programs or these buttons are, just 1 minute, I think. So these every buttons are nothing but the programs, okay, and the collection of that programs, that collection of all the programs is nothing but the software. So that's why the definition of software will say that it is nothing but the collection of programs. After that, we have seen the types of software. So basically, the software is divided into two parts, that is the system software and application software. Yesterday, I have told you the system software is nothing but the heart of any software. So when the system software works properly, our application software can work proper, will also working their functioning. So in a similar case, if our system software is working properly, then our application software will also work properly. So for that, I will give the example of Windows operating system. If Windows operating system works properly, so on that Windows operating system, if we install the MS Office, so that our MS Office will also work properly. If our Windows operating system does not work, so we are able to open the even the Microsoft Office also. So that's why we are saying that system software is nothing but the heart. And if the system software is will work properly, then and then our application software will also work properly. After that, we have seen the concept of C language. In a C language, I told you that big program is converted into the small functions. Is it audible to everyone?
सर आवाज थोड़ा
Yes,
खरखर
sir.
करतोय.
आवाज खरखर करतोय का?
हा थोडा खरखर करतोय.
बरं बरं, एकच मिनिट. आता क्लिअर येतोय?
नाही सर थोडा येतोय खरखर करतोय.
एक मिनिट थांबा. आता येतोय का क्लिअर?
नाही तरी पण थोडं सर माझं ब्रेक झाल्यासारखं होतंय आता.
कसं होतंय?
थोडा ब्रेक आवाज होते म्हणणं.
आवाज ब्रेक होतोय का?
हा.
ते आता मग मे बी थोडाफार रेंजचा इश्यू असेल, त्याच्यामुळे ब्रेक होत असेल तो.
हा.
बरं बरं, तरी आपण ट्राय करूत.
चल.
हा. So yesterday we have seen the example of C language. So we know that our C language should be called as the function oriented language. So in a C language, what happens? We are defining the number of functions. So for that we are taking the simple example of sum, product and division. So for sum, so this is the one function, this product is another function and division is another function. And consider that we are defining two variables, that is variable A and B, and that variable A and B we are declaring it is globally. So that's why that variable should be called as a global variables. So we know that if local variables are there, then that local variable are work within that particular functions. And we know that if global variables are there, so that global variables are working at any function, because any function can use that global variable. So when our data is moving from one function to another function, at that time any function can access our data. So when anyone can access our data, at that time we can say that our data should not be secure one. So that's why, so see here, we are returning here. Here we are using the global variables, that is integer A and B. So global variables can be used in any function. So that variable a and b I can use in a sum function, I can use in a product function, I can use in a division function, because that variable I declared in a globally, and global variable can move from one function to another function, or it can be used in any function. Because of this, our data is freely moving in any function. So if these variables are global, so that's why we are using in all the functions. So because of that, our data is not secure. If our data is moving from one place to another place and anybody can use the same data, so at that time we can say that our data is not secure. So to provide more security, we are introducing a concept, and that concept should be called as a object oriented programming. So what happens in object oriented programming? So see here, in a C function what happens? Functions are created using a object oriented programming. So in a C function, data is created using a object oriented programming. Means where data is somewhere else and data is somewhere else. So the program is very big, that is a thousands or 10,000 line of code is there. And when we are seeing in that program, so it is very difficult for us to understand. So which variable are used particularly in which functions. So that's why in a C language, the functions are somewhere else and data should be in a somewhere else. So to avoid this confusion and to provide more security, in a object oriented programming, what will we do? We are bind these data and functions together. म्हणजे जे सी लँग्वेजचा जो ड्रॉबॅक होता, की सी लँग्वेज मध्ये काय होतं, फंक्शन कुठंतरी राहील, डेटा कुठंतरी राहील. आणि सी लँग्वेज मध्ये डेटा फ्रीली मुव्हिंग होत होतं एका फंक्शन मधून दुसऱ्या फंक्शन मध्ये. सो टू अवॉइड दिस कन्फ्युजन अँड टू प्रोव्हाइड मोर सिक्युरिटी, ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड प्रोग्रामिंग मध्ये आपण काय करतोय, तो डेटा आणि तो फंक्शन्स आपण एकाच ठिकाणी पुट करतोय, and that particular data used by that particular functions. Means if I use that integer variable a and b in a sum function, so that same variable should not be used in a product function. So that's why I declare that variables in a uh, one function, and data associated with that function should be present, uh, uh, data associated with it should be present in a one block also. So that's why data block and function block should be present at single place. So that's why in object oriented programming we are saying that our data and functions we are bind together, and that combination should be called as a object. So object will consist of data and member functions together. So that's why here we are returning. In C programming, program is divided into function and data is also there. But data and functions are placed randomly. So in OOP, data is also there and functions are also present. But we are binding data and functions together, and combinedly it is called as an object. So if we are saying that it is an object, so it should be understandable for us. If object is there, it means that data is also there and member function is also there. So data and functions are bind together, and combinedly it is called as a object. So for that we have seen one simple example, that is student 1 and student 2. Two candidates are there. So consider that in suppose in your class 50 candidates are there. So 50 candidates have 50 ID, 50 candidates have their different names. So that 50 candidates should pay the different fee. After that, so our data should be present in our database. So that data should be present separately. So for that, we are declaring one object for one candidate. So in that object, it will contain function related to that data. Suppose one ID is there, name is there. If suppose any candidate paid certain fees and that candidate belong to a certain course, so the data is related to that particular candidate. That data should be accessed by that functions. So this function will access by only this data, and that combinedly it is called as a object one. So this is the object one for candidate one, this is object two for candidate two. So see here, the data of that first candidate should not be interfere or should not be transferred to the object of another candidate. So that's why Here we can say that in a C++ language, our data should not be moved from one object to another object. Okay, because we are declaring data in an object separately. So that's why our data is more secure because our data should not be moving from one object to another object, and that data should be handled by a member function of that particular object. So next example that we have seen the big bazaar example. So in a big bazaar, we are purchasing the different items. After purchasing that item, we are prepare the bill. So in that bill, item A is there. So item A is divided into small parts, and that small parts are called as a object. In a C++ language, we are calling the object now. The query object is there. So consider that the object A is there. So we are purchasing the 10 quantity of that A object, and the price of one object is 10. So 10 into 10, total price is 100. So automatically we are preparing a bill like that. So our total bill is 400. So see here, the data is related with that item A. So information regarding that item A should be present in a row of item A. जो काही आपण ए आयटम परचेस केला तर त्याच्या रिगार्डिंग जी काही इन्फॉर्मेशन आहे ती कुठं एकाच रो मध्ये प्रेझेंट आहे. म्हणजे बी ची जी इन्फॉर्मेशन आहे ते ए मध्ये इंटरफेअर झालेली नाही किंवा ए ची इन्फॉर्मेशन बी मध्ये इंटरफेअर झालेली नाही. प्रत्येक आयटमची इन्फॉर्मेशन त्या रो समोर काय केलाय आपण डिक्लेअर केली आहे. मीन्स वी आर डिक्लेअरिंग हिअर डेटा. We are declaring here data and functions together. So combinedly, the complete information of that item A should be called as a object. So see here, this complete information of item A that present in a single row, that is, and that combined information should be called as a one object, and that information should be used by the functions which are declaring for that particular object. After that, our next point is the difference between procedure oriented and object oriented programming language. So see here, our C language is nothing but the procedure oriented language, and our C++ is nothing but the object oriented programming language. So see here, in a procedure oriented programming language, the first point is program is divided into the small parts, and that part should be called as a functions. So in a similar manner, in a C language, already we are saying that C language is a function oriented language. So our program is divided into small sub programs, and that small sub program should be called as a functions. So that's why the procedure oriented language is divided into small parts, and that parts are called as the function. But in the object oriented programming language, what happens? The program is divided into small parts, and that part should be called as an object. In a C language, we are using function. In a C++, we are using a object. So in a C language or procedure programming language, we are follow the top-down approach. Means in a C language, we are going to call main function initially. Is it correct? In a C language, we are going to call main function initially. Then after that, we are calling the different functions. But in a C++, we are initially call the objects, and after calling that objects, we are at the end we will call the main functions. So in a C language, main function should be at the top. So that's why that procedure oriented programming language follows the top down approach, and in a C++ we are calling the main function at bottom. So that's why our C++ language follows the bottom up approach. After that, the next point, there is no access specifier in a procedure programming language. Access specifier means that access specifier is used to keep our data either public, private or protected. म्हणजे आपला डेटा आपल्या पुरताच लिमिटेड ठेवायचा आहे, की आपला डेटा सर्वांना ओपन करायचा आहे, की आपला डेटा एका पर्टिक्युलर ठिकाणी ठेवून त्याला प्रोटेक्ट करायचा आहे. So this is the working of access specifier. So in a C language or procedure oriented programming language, we are not using any access specifier. But in a C++, we are using the access specifier like private, public and protected. So that private, public and protected are nothing but the access specifier. So it is used to keep our data private, public and protected. If I call that private, If I call that private uh, access specifier, so by using that private, our data variable can be used within that particular object. So if I use public access specifier, so at that time our data can be visible to another object also. Now next, adding new data and function is not easy. If any program is there and in that program we want to add certain new data and functions, so it is not easy. But it is easy in object-oriented programming language, because to add a new data and function, so we have to only call, or we have to prepare only one object. So by calling extra object, we can easily add data and functions there. After that, in a procedure, programming does not have any proper way for hiding data, so it is less secure. So we know that uh, so we know that in a procedure oriented programming language, as data is moving from one function to another function, in a procedure oriented programming language, the slides are visible or not?
Visible at sir.
In a procedure oriented programming language, what happens, we know that if we are calling a data variable that is globally, so at that time our data is freely moving from one function to another function. So that's why we are saying that in procedure oriented programming language, our data we cannot hide our data, so it is less secure, because if we are calling the data globally, so at that time that data can be seen or can be used by any functions. So that's why that procedure oriented programming language is less secure. So in a object oriented programming language, what happens, we are binding the data and functions together, so our data is not moved from one function to another functions. So by using data abstraction concept also, we can hide our data. So that's why our object oriented programming language is more secure as compared to procedure oriented programming language. Now, in a procedure oriented programming language, overloading is not possible. That is, operator overloading, one concept is there. So that operator overloading is not possible in procedure oriented programming language. But in object oriented programming language, overloading is possible. So what is overloading? So we will see that concept in a upcoming chapter. So just तुमच्या लक्षात राहण्यासाठी फक्त हा पॉइंट लक्षात ठेवा. जेव्हा हा कन्सेप्ट येईल ऑपरेटर ओव्हरलोडिंग, तेव्हा आपण बघूतच. सी लँग्वेज मध्ये ओव्हरलोडिंगचा कन्सेप्ट नाही. सी प्लस प्लस लँग्वेज मध्ये काय ओव्हरलोडिंगचा कन्सेप्ट आहे. आफ्टर दॅट इन प्रोसिजर, that is in procedure programming, function is more important than data. So as we know that our C language is called as the function oriented programming language, so that's why in a C language functions are more important than data. But in a object oriented programming language, our data is more important than function, because in a object oriented programming language we are providing a security to our data. So that's why here data is more important in object oriented programming language than functions. So procedure programming is based on unreal world. So unreal world means, so that procedure programming is not used now for developing a different applications. But for developing a different software and applications, so we are going to use the object oriented programming. So that's why the object oriented programming is based on real world. So the example of procedure oriented programming language is C language, Fortran language, Pascal language, and basics etc. And example of procedure object oriented programming language is C++, Java, Python, C Sharp. So see here, number of application that we are developing by using this language, that is C++, Java, Python, and C Sharp. So this is the difference between procedure oriented and object oriented programming language. So if you want to note down this difference, you can note down. I will wait. नोट डाउन करताय की shall I move proceed? I will share this slide with you afterwards. हॅलो.
हॅलो सर, पुन्हा हे करा तुम्ही.
काय?
पुन्हा याच्या पीडीएफ फाईल असणार आहे, पाठवून द्या आम्हाला, लिहितो मग पुन्हा.
बरं बरं. नाही तसं मी ह्या स्लाइड तुम्हाला पाठवणार आहे आणि PDF पण
हा
देणार आहे पहिल्या नोट्सच्या.
हा
तर
हा.
मग तेव्हा लिहून घेणार का?
हा घेतोय सर.
बरं बरं चालतंय. आणि आपल्या सब्जेक्टला एक्झाम नाही, एंड सेमिस्टर एक्झाम नाही, फक्त प्रॅक्टिकल्स आहेत.
बरं बरं चालतंय.
हा. Now, what are the benefits of OOP? So, reusability. So, the first benefit is reusability. Reusability चा concept म्हणजे कसा आहे की ज्या सॉफ्टवेअर इंजिनियरने ही लँग्वेज एकदा डिफाईन केली, बरोबर आहे, त्याचे काही जे फंक्शन्स आहेत, त्याच्यानंतर जे काही ऑब्जेक्ट्स वगैरे म्हणजे जे काही ऍट्रिब्यूट्स वगैरे जे आहेत त्यांनी एकदाच डिफाईन केले, पण आपण तर डिफाईन केली आहे पूर्ण, त्याचे ऍट्रिब्यूट्स, त्याचे सिंटॅक्स वगैरे काय त्यांनी एकदाच लिहून ठेवले आहेत. पण ते सिंटॅक्स आणि ते ऍट्रिब्यूट आपण जेव्हा जेव्हा प्रोग्राम करतोय तेव्हा तेव्हा यूज करतोय, बरोबर आहे. सो नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स वी आर गोइंग टू राईट अ प्रोग्राम अँड नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स वी आर गोइंग टू यूज दॅट ऍट्रिब्यूट्स, बट दॅट सिंटॅक्स अँड ऍट्रिब्यूट शुड बी रिटन बाय द डेव्हलपर ओनली इन वन टाइम. म्हणजे एकदा लिहिल्यानंतर जर समजा आपण ते प्रत्येक वेळेस यूज करतोय प्रोग्राम लिहिताना, so that concept should be called as the reusability. So see here, in OOPs, the program functions and modules that are written by a user can be reused by other user without any modification. म्हणजे एका युजरने जे प्रोग्राम फंक्शन आणि मॉड्यूल्स जे काही लिहिलेले आहेत त्यांना फक्त एकदा लिहून ठेवले आहेत, बट दॅट प्रोग्राम फंक्शन अँड मॉड्यूल्स कॅन बी रियूज बाय अदर युजर्स विदाउट एनी मॉडिफिकेशन. जर समजा आपण त्याच्यामध्ये काही मॉडिफिकेशन केलं तर आपल्याला प्रोग्राम रन करताना एरर दाखवतोय, बरोबर आहे. तर त्यांनी ते प्रोग्राम फंक्शन आणि मॉड्यूल्स ज्या वेळेला डिफाईन केले, so without any modification, if anybody use that program function and modules repeatedly, so that concept should be called as the reusability. Now second concept here we are using the inheritance. Inheritance सिंपल कन्सेप्ट काय, जसं तुमचे ग्रँड पेरेंट्स घ्या. सो ग्रँड पेरेंट्स मधले जे काही गुण आहेत ते तुमच्या पॅरेंट्स मध्ये आलेत, ठीक आहे. मग पॅरेंट्सचे काही गुण आहेत ते तुमच्या कुठे आलेत, तुमच्यामध्ये आले. म्हणजे ग्रँड पेरेंट्स जर तुमचा चेहरा तुमच्या वडिलांना आला असेल तर वडिलांचे काही गुण ते तुमच्या बॉडीमध्ये आले. मीन्स दॅट थ्रू इनहेरिटन्स, सो वी कॅन से दॅट the characters of previous generation should be comes in a next generation. So inheritance मध्ये काय, जे काही आपले पूर्वज आहेत त्यांचे कॅरेक्टर्स आपल्यामध्ये येत जातात थोडे थोडे जनरेशन वाईज. So that concept should be called as a inheritance. Means data is moving from one generation to another generation. So inheritance, through this we can eliminate redundant code and extend the use of एक्झिस्टिंग क्लासेस. मीन्स ऑलरेडी जर समजा आपल्या फॅमिलीचे जर समजा काही गुण आपल्यामध्ये येत आहेत ऑटोमॅटिकली, सो तर डुप्लिकेट गुण घ्यायची गरज नाही आपल्याला. सो इन इन इनहेरिटन्सचा एक सिंपल कन्सेप्ट लक्षात ठेवा. ज्यावेळेस तिसऱ्या चौथ्या चॅप्टर मध्ये कन्सेप्ट येईल त्यावेळेस बघू त्याचे टाइप्स वगैरे आहेत, की जनरेशन वाईज डेटा आपल्यामध्ये येतोय. म्हणजे आजोबांचे गुण मुलामध्ये, मुलाचे गुण आपल्यामध्ये आले, आपले गुण आपल्या मुलामध्ये जातील. तो सो इन दिस वे द डेटा इज गोइंग टू कॅरी आउट. After that, data hiding. So the programmer can hide the data and function in a class from the other classes. So it helps programmer to build a secure programs. So in a difference, so we are already one point is there. So data hiding concept is there. So that data hiding concept should be called as the data abstractions. So in a data hiding, what happens? if any programmers is developing one applications and आणि एक त्याच्यापेक्षा डेटा हायडिंगचा एक सिंपल कन्सेप्ट जर समजा तुम्हाला बघायचं असेल तर एक सिंपल फंक्शन आहे. तुम्ही जर समजा एखादा गेम खेळताय, ठीक आहे, पण त्या गेमच्या मागचे जे तुम्हाला शो होतोय पण त्याच्या मागची काही कोडिंग तुम्हाला शो होत नाही. सो दॅट कोडिंग दॅट डेटा शुड बी हाईड फ्रॉम यू. सो दॅट कन्सेप्ट शुड बी कॉल्ड एज अ डेटा हायडिंग. After that, reduce complexity of a problem. So the given problem can be viewed as a collection of different objects. So while developing any program, we are calling a different object there. So each object is responsible for particular task. Just a C language, we are saying that it is a function oriented language. तर प्रत्येक फंक्शनचा काहीतरी एक डिफरंट टास्क राहायचा, बरोबर आहे. सो इन अ सिमिलर केस एव्हरी ऑब्जेक्ट हॅव अ सर्टन पर्टिक्युलर टास्क. So the problem is solving by interfacing the object. So these techniques reduce the complexity of the program. So interfacing of the object means so we can reduce the complexity of a problem. Okay, our program is basically divided into different objects, and each object is responsible to carry out a certain task. So just like a C program, our C language is nothing but the function-oriented programming language, and our C program is divided into the number of functions. So as we are seeing in a difference, so in that difference, one point is there. So where is that point? Point number 4. So we cannot easily add a new data and functions in a procedure oriented, that is a C language. But in a C++ language, we can adding a new data and function easy. So in a similar manner, we can interface the object, means we can introduce the new object in a C++ programming language if we required any data, so we can easily add the data in that particular object, and this technique reduces the complexity of a program design. Means by using these techniques we can easily develop our program. Means एखादा जर समजा C++ प्रोग्राम आहे, त्या प्रोग्राम मध्ये जर समजा काही डेटा किंवा काही फीचर्स आपल्याला ऍड करायचे असतील, so we can easily add that data and features in that C++ program. So that's why if adding a features and data is easy, so it means that the complexity of that particular problem should be the less one. So that's why it is a reduced complexity of a problem. So these are the 4 benefits. Now the next benefit is easy to maintain and upgrade. So already we are saying that we can easily add and we can easily add the data, we can easily add any object is there, we can easily add the functions in C++ language. So if we want to upgrade, if I want to upgrade my software, upgrading means we are going to add some extra features. So adding a new data is easy, so we can easily maintain and we can easily upgrade that our existing software. Now message passing. So message passing means uh, communication, that is the communication between two bodies, that is nothing but the message passing. So in a C++, what happens? We can establish a communication between the two objects. So that message passing should be possible in C++ because in a message passing is a technique to communicate with each other. So as a human being, now I am talking with you, means I am passing a message to you or I am giving a message to you. Okay, so in a C++, in a similar way, we can establish a connection between two objects. So that concept should be called as a message passing. And last point, that is modifiability. So in a C++, easy to make class to class, and as to a class is through a use of method. म्हणजे जर समजा एखादा C++ प्रोग्राम आपल्याला गिवन आहे, त्या C++ प्रोग्राम मध्ये जर समजा आपण काही मॉडिफिकेशन्स केले, तर त्या मॉडिफिकेशनचा जो काही इफेक्ट आहे तो इफेक्ट त्या प्रोग्रामच्या क्लासवर होणार नाही. फक्त काय, जो आपला युजर इंटरफेस एखादा पर्टिक्युलर प्रोग्राम मध्ये मॉडिफिकेशन केल्यानंतर तो आपण ज्यावेळेस प्रोग्राम रन करतो तर ऑटोमॅटिकली त्याचा इंटरफेस काय होतो, एका डिफरंट वेने येतो. तर जो काही फक्त इंटरफेस आहे, दॅट इंटरफेस विल बी चेंज. इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज द क्लास और इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज इनसाइड द क्लास. So we can make the modification in C++ program very easy. कारण C++ प्रोग्राम मध्ये जर समजा आपण काही मॉडिफिकेशन केले तर त्या मॉडिफिकेशनच्या तर त्या
हॅलो प्रतीक सर,
हा
एक्सक्यूज मी सर, हेगडे सर बोलतो सर. ॲक्च्युली आय हॅव टू मेक वन अनाउन्समेंट सर, इफ यू डोंट
ओके.
माइंड.
हा
Yeah. So actually, I have sent one message to some students on WhatsApp group. So kindly check those students and fill that form immediately and send me the screenshot once the lecture of Pratik sir has been finished. Okay. Yeah. So those who are having that message, just finish that form and send it me the submission screenshot. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
okay. So the last point is modifiability. So modifiability means we are making a minor changes as per our requirement. So if we are that making the minor changes as per our requirement, so that minor changes does not change or that minor changes does not affect on the class of that program. So that changes we can show by using the public interfaces. म्हणजे जो काही युजर इंटरफेस आपण बघतो, जसं गेमिंगचा युजर इंटरफेस असतो, तर त्यावेळी त्या पब्लिक इंटरफेस मध्ये आपल्याला कळते की काहीतरी मायनर चेंजेस झाले आहेत, बट दॅट मायनर चेंजेस इज नॉट गोइंग टू अफेक्ट द क्लास ऑफ दॅट प्रोग्राम. So these are the benefits of object oriented programming. And the last point of our unit number 1, that is the application of object oriented programming. So the object oriented programming we can use in a real time system. Real time system means our computer system. आफ्टर दॅट सिम्युलेशन अँड मॉडेलिंग. सिम्युलेशन अँड मॉडेलिंग मीन्स जे काही आपले मेकॅनिकलचे मुलं यूज करतात सिम्युलेशन सॉफ्टवेअर अँड मॉडेलिंग, त्याच्या दॅट सॉफ्टवेअर शुड बी प्रिपेअर्ड बाय युझिंग दी that C++. After that, object oriented database. As I already told, number of database, that is SQL servers, MySQL, that databases are developed by using the object oriented programming. After that, hypertext, hypermedia, and expertext. So hypermedia, now that hypermedia is related with our media player. So I already told that some of the programs of our media player that should be prepared by using our C++ language. So the application of OOP, that is we can easily construct hypertext, hypermedia, and expertext. After that, C++ is used in artificial intelligence and expert system. C++ is used in a neural network and parallel programming. C++ is used in a CAMCAT systems and decision support system and office automation system. So see here in a very first slide, I already told you what are the number of softwares that we are going to develop by using the C++, and these are nothing but the applications. की सी प्लस प्लस लँग्वेज कुठं कुठं यूज होते आणि कुठले कुठले अप्लिकेशन्स आपण डेव्हलप करू शकतोय. सो दीज आर ऑल्सो द अप्लिकेशन्स. मीन्स the last application, that is the protocols. That protocol, that is the HTTP, means when we are establishing a connection with internet, at that time that HTTP protocol is appear here. So that hypertext transfer protocol can be developed by using the C++ language. So 90% of telecom software are developed by using the C++ language. Mobile games are developed by using the C++ language. Mobile games are developed by using the C++ language. Super Contra, Super Mario, that system, if I connect one printer without installing the device drivers of that printer, so without installing the device driver of a printer, I am unable to take a printout by giving a command, because my printer is not detected because device drivers are not present. So that device driver should be prepared by using a C++ language. After that, I told you translators, that is compiler, interpreter, and assembler. So the programming of this translator should be made by using the C++, just like databases. So object-oriented programming databases are Oracle database, MySQL database, SQL Server database. So these databases are prepared by using the C++. Commercial applications. Commercial application means Commercial application means the application which are related with the money. So just like uh, we have seen the example of supermarket, when we went to the supermarket, at last we are prepare the bill. So that billing software should be developed by using the C++ language. After that, in a bank, so number of commercial application, that is the commercial means the application which are related to money. So the banking applications are developed by using the C++. After that, hotel management system, that hotel management applications are developed by using the C++. After that, editors, that is the for the example of editors are notepad, wordpad. So that notepad and wordpad, that we are developed by using the C++ software. After that, operating systems, our operating systems all also developed by using the C++, and examples are DOS operating system, Windows operating system, Unix operating system. So these are the number of applications or number of softwares that we can develop by using the C++. So if the questions are there, what are the applications of C++? So you can mention these also. So some of the real-time systems also developed by using the C++ language. After that, the softwares which are used for by the mechanical engineer for simulation and modeling. After that, CAD/CAM system. Then artificial intelligence system. In artificial intelligence system, to develop a certain things, we require C++. The neural network. That some of the coding of neural network is based on the C++ language, just like databases. So these are the number of applications where we are using the object-oriented programming language. So our unit number 1 is finished. So is there any difficulty in unit number 1? भरपूर छोटा आहे. जस्ट काय सी लँग्वेज मध्ये काय होतं आणि सी प्लस प्लस मध्ये काय ऍड केलं तेवढंच आहे. नाव सेकंड unit is important because we are going to start the basic C++, means what is class, what is object, what are the extra operators are there, that we are going to see small things in a next chapter. So in this chapter is just introductory chapter. So we have finished our unit number 1. So is it understandable or shall I repeat once again? समजलं की रिपीट करायचं आहे? समजलं की रिपीट करू?
समजलं सर.
आणि आपल्याला जो C++ सब्जेक्ट आहे तो सब्जेक्ट एकदम डिटेल मध्ये नाही, जस्ट इंट्रोडक्टरी पार्ट आहे आणि काही छोटे छोटे प्रोग्राम्स आहेत 10-12 लाईन्सचे. आणि या सब्जेक्टला थेरी पेपर नाही. तरी पण आपल्याला जसे जसे क्लास मिळतील तसं तसं थोडं थोडं डिटेलमध्ये जाण्याचा प्रयत्न करू आपण. म्हणजे तुमच्या सिलेबसच्या व्यतिरिक्त पण थोडंसं डिटेलमध्ये जाऊ. ठीक आहे. कारण ज्यावेळेस कंपन्या वगैरे येतात तर ऍटलिस्ट ते सुरुवातीला बेसिक नॉलेज चेक करतात. तर बेसिक पेक्षा आपण थोडं जास्त बघू तुमच्या सिलेबस पेक्षा. सो गिव्ह मी द अटेंडन्स. I will take your attendance. Study I have prepared here. कालची डेट किती? 9 ना? 9/6. ऋषिकेश तुमचा रोल नंबर किती आहे?
31.
31. नाव नेक्स्ट मोहिनी गायकवाड तुमचा 1.
1.
ओके. नाव नेक्स्ट राणी मोरे. राणी मोरे, व्हॉट इज युअर रोल नंबर?
6.
6. आफ्टर दॅट रविराज कांबळे.
22.
22. सिद्धेश्वर देवकटे.
13.
13. आफ्टर दॅट वैशाली राऊत.
सर माय नेम इज अनमोल राऊत. मी ह्याच्यावरनं मीटिंग अटेंड केली.
तुमचं रोल नंबर सांगा, रोल नंबर तुमचं.
8.
8. आफ्टर दॅट व्यंकटेश गायकवाड.
17.
17. सचिन तोडकरी.
30.
30 ना?
Yes sir.
झाल्या की आणखी कोणी बाकी आहे? वैशाली राव तुमचं झालं का?
हा सर.
Okay. So in the next lecture we will start our unit number 2. Okay. Thank you.